All right, let's talk about the other side. We backed it. Like, we backed it in the first 5 minutes. I think I'm backer number 251.
I point Kickstarter because you were unaware that it was launching today.
I've been following it a lot, but there's been other stuff that has been like catching my attention.
See, you were working today. I had an in-between day waiting on other people to send me stuff, so I was surfing the internet like a pro. And it was up to when I was like, holy crap, I gotta go. And I clicked over, and they were already at $12,000. So,
yeah, it was amazing.
This is the level of success and funding that the other side has had.
I'm super excited for that. I'm super excited for Wyrd too, because I think that like if you follow me on my personal Facebook page, which I don't normally link a lot of places, but if you search for me, you'll find me. A lot of my public posts have been about the pain that we're kind of going through right now, building more Malifaux models. And as I said in a tweet earlier today, I was all like, they had me at pre-assembled.
Yeah, absolutely. So why don't we let's talk for a moment and talk about what exactly the other side is, why it's so awesome, and the one thing I wish they had done differently. So basically, the other side is set in the Malifaux universe, and it takes place not in Malifaux, but on the other side. Get it? So it is a conflict set here on Earth.
Which is so cool.
Which is very cool because it's still the same setting, the same aesthetics, the same rules apply. Soulstones exist. Technology based off of it exists. So everything you've come to kind of know and love in terms of the Malifaux aesthetic is all very present in this game. Now, because this is a larger, more global conflict, we've got massive like mecha monstrosities, which is super cool. You actually have armies.
It feels like this game is going to be in that, like, a couple sizes above the current Malifaux game. So when we play Malifaux, I'm using maybe 7 or 8 models at 50 soul.
Yeah, I mean your factions are usually in the 7 to 10 range, depending on what you're doing. I play Rezzers, so I summon more, which usually puts me at like the heavy total of 15.
But like this game feels like it's going to sit around 25 to 40, which is kind of like in terms of model count. War Machine, I guess, is kind of a comparable size.
It is a very similar in terms of number of models as War Machine, which is great. So the fact that we are getting an opportunity to do this because
and explore that world more, because the factions that are available in this game grow that universe, and Wyrd has done a beautiful job at continually growing the Malifaux verse, and this is another extension of that, and so I'm really excited.
We've both spent most of the afternoon
trying to figure out which ones we're gonna get. Gibbering Hordes. I love the commander that they have. Is such a cool model. I think it's so
basically
cool.
The Gibbering Hordes are Neverborn, which, if you are familiar with the Malifaux universe, those are the natural creatures of Malifaux. But these are specifically the ocean dwellers that we've never seen explored in the game of Malifaux before.
So cool.
Cult of the Burning Man is absolutely the faction that I've decided on. But the Cult of the Burning Man. So the Cult of the Burning Man is mutants and these religious fanatics that believe that the Burning Man is a deity who's punishing the world for its sins and its evils. And then they have this, their titan is a giant fucking baller as fuck dragon. And
it's cool. It's just cool.
It speaks to me in so many ways. For me though, I like the idea behind Abyssinia, which is the faction from the continent of Africa.
Yeah.
I like the fact that there is representation from them, and I think that
Dreadnought looks really good too.
Oh my god, their Dreadnought is incredible.
It's so cool. And I'm looking at this miniature thinking, I'm so glad I don't have to build that thing. They used to be very rich in soulstones.
Yes,
right?
And so they've had a much longer time working and experimenting with soulstones,
technology,
and that's why their technology is the most advanced out of these nations. Anyway, so the one we haven't mentioned so far is Kingdom of Britannia, which is literally just it's the King's army, because the gate to Malifaux is in London, so it is the King's army. They obviously have a stake.
You know that this basic faction. When you see blue on it, there's a that I am attracted to. in terms of like Wyrd's approach to games as a whole, and specifically like the use of the fate deck is present in this game. I love that. I love the idea of having like a fixed probability curve. Dice can spike, and if you can roll a single dice, you know, an infinite number of times, and it can always come up a specific number every time.
I have played a game of Firestorm Armada where my Dreadnought was a triple critted a Terran cruiser with one shield, and he rolled so many 6s in a row that it ended up doing no damage. That is always possible in a dice game. You can absolutely roll 10 6s in a row. In a card game, there are not 5 kings.
There are not 5 kings.
As soon as that 4th one drops, you will never see a king again.
And I think that there's something that feels a little less random. But at the same time, it's still random. At the same time, you still have a focus on movement on the table, and I think that that's something that a lot of the people we used to play with came out of 40K when we played Malifaux. They would read stats and be like, okay, this is going to be good at this, and this is going to do this, but they didn't see how certain models played on the table. They couldn't read that out of the rules, and they weren't anticipating play based on that. And I think that's what also attracts me to Wyrd's philosophy on games.
They would build the superpower list, and then you'd draft up a scenario with strats and schemes that do not even remotely reward you for killing.
That kind of play.
So they're coming trying to brick to the face you, and then you beat them 9-2 on strats and schemes because they're just not able
to adjust to the objectives of the game.
Absolutely.
In an objective-based game, you can always figure another way out. And I think that's the cleverness of these games. You can have a very fragile faction, and it's not meant to do damage, but it can play very specific lists. You have a movement faction that can do the same thing,
your Misaki 10 Thunders list in Malifaux
very fragile.
It does not kill things, and then when I look at you sternly, your models die, and you're still able to just jank around the board and drop scheme. You know, you pick the right schemes, and all of a sudden you got 6 points on schemes, and you've locked me out of strat points, and now I'm struggling to keep up. Wyrd games have things that do that.
That makes it... I feel like they want to bring joy to the hobby aspect. So in exchange for that, they balance what you can take and what you want to build and what you want to paint with how they play on the table. Like you can build something with whatever you pick based on aesthetic. It can work.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that you don't have to focus on optimizing necessarily as much as you focus on table play and then cheating when it's the right time and that sort of thing. So I'm really excited about that based on what I've seen in the trailers on the Kickstarter for gameplay and stuff too. Again, it maintains that kind of feel. If that design sensibility remains, it's going to be great.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I do feel like a lot of it has. I know that we backed the Kickstarter before we watched any of the videos, but I have since watched things like the gameplay video. To me, just from what I've seen from the gameplay, there are a lot of those sort of strats and schemes element of Malifaux, where you're going to have differing objectives, and how you achieve victory is going to depend on how well you can adapt to that. And it feels like the core mechanics are kind of a Malifaux third edition.
Which is nice,
they've really kind of they've taken what worked and they've refined it for this game. So all of that makes me very excited.
The models
have Malifaux detail and are coming pre-built.
See, now, that's the difference. These are not one-piece casts.
No, we're not looking at Green Army Men.
We're not looking at Green Army Men. We're looking at pre-assembled models rather than single-piece models. And the difference between that means better detail, means better
quality. To the Chinese factory worker that is having to assemble all of my other side stuff, I'm sorry. My heart goes out to you because I myself have done it. Actually, oddly enough, people have been complaining that they don't get to build the models, and Wyrd has removed an aspect of the hobby. And I'm using a lot of air quotes because...
I feel like those people haven't built starter set boxes. They haven't. And
but like I said,
you can only build so many of those before you're like,
you know what?
I'm done. We built the emissaries.
Yes, we did. And the emissaries were tooled relatively nicely. I mean, my bird is holding a skull in his hand, and that skull was 3 pieces for reasons. But like I said, their tooling
Yeah.
has gotten better, but fundamentally, building weird models is the worst hobby building experience I have ever encountered. And I have encountered some very poorly tooled, low quality models that don't assemble well. And so, what we always joke about is the testament to Malifaux is that despite how bullshit building their models are, we still give them money. We still play their game.
We still play their games. We love that. It is, but I think it says something a lot about the game, about the community, about the universe, and how alluring those things are. But I personally compare building Malifaux models to childbirth. In that, you take all this raw material, you make it into something, and you love it, but that whole process was so terrible and painful. You need a little while to recover and kind of forget before you do it all over again. And for me, that's how I build Malifaux models. I'll buy a box or two, I'll build some of them, and I'll be like, my god, my face, my fingers, I hate this. I'll paint them, and I will love
And that's the thing, is like, for me, my hobby is painting. I do it the most, and I enjoy gaming. Building is always the chore.
Yeah.
To get to those two aspects of the hobby for me, and weird models for Malifaux, because the other side is going to be different.
Who knows?
For Malifaux is always like the more tedious chore. And I totally get that if your hobby is building models and you appreciate the complexity
mod your kits and that sort of thing, of course.
And things like that, I can see how it's a turnoff. With that being said, I do want to talk about the only thing that I really dislike about this Kickstarter
is
the time of year they launched it at. Fundamentally, Christmas is 10 days away, and they basically said, all right, you're already strapped because it's Christmas. You're buying gifts, you're buying everything you do for the holiday season. And, hey, by the way, here's our Kickstarter out. I would personally have wished that they had either launched it a month earlier to do November to December, because who cares if you're missing out on Black Friday sales because you backed a Kickstarter. Or done it a month later with the January to February, because I just feel like disposable income is not as readily available.
Maybe you're getting Christmas bonuses. Maybe that's the thing. You don't get Christmas bonuses. I don't get Christmas bonuses.
I don't get Christmas bonuses or raises or anything like that.
But
like I said, it just, to
we're in our situation, obviously. That's and I think in terms of annoyances, that's the most minor annoyance.
It's super minor, but that's exactly it. Is the game itself looks good.
Oh,
the minis look good. I'm interested to see how the game evolves and expands, because one of the things that they mention in the gameplay video and in all of their sort of promo videos is that, hey, the other side is designed to be played with about 40 to 45 models a side, and each of those Commander starter boxes only adds up to about 25 models. So, we know that this is half of what they are saying the other side should be. What does the rest of my faction look like? What are other options going to be? Are we going to be getting tanks? Because right now, if you look at what you have available, it is 2 different infantry types and a giant mecha monster. Or a giant monster in the case of the monsters for those 2 factions. So for me, I am interested to see the evolution of this game.
I'm interested to see how they take this game as well, because what you see a lot of companies doing too is they'll launch a new game, but they will then use components of that game within a pre-existing game. So Rise of the Kage did that for Bushido.
Absolutely.
You're talking about units that slot into bases that are larger bases.
And they're already on 30 mil bases, which is what Malifaux runs with. So
I'm hoping for that too. I mean, I think that would be really cool. That's not hinging on that. Like, there's a couple things I'm looking forward to see whether or not this experience is something for Wyrd to do some market testing on other things as well. If this is the way they back, they fund a model that allows them to tool better models. Because let's face it, I'm probably more patient, more skilled at building models than some Chinese factory worker out wherever.
Yes.
But they've got to be able to build those models. So is their tooling going to improve post the other side? Is their technology going to get better with this thing? So that's also what I'm looking forward to, because if these are kind of secondary benefits that we're funding through this Kickstarter, I'm all for it. I'm all for an expansion of the Malifaux universe that's funded through another game. I'm all for all of these other kind of secondary
Well, yeah,
benefits,
because-
whether they materialize or not.
Well-
I can be hopeful for that.
I suspect that they will, simply because the scale is the same. If these were
Yeah.
two entirely different
Scales.
scales, then no. It wouldn't be possible. But fundamentally, the only thing that would be holding back a Cult of the Burning Man, a King's Army, an Abyssinia, and a gibbering horde foray into Malifaux are stat cards.
Cards. But that also goes both ways, right? So the only thing that's keeping, a 10 Thunders list, an Outcasts list, a Rezzers list from going onto the other side are rules. And so, again, I don't know how this is going to be. I don't know whether or not that is compatible. I've just seen it enough to be like, So that's it for today. I'm gonna start putting up more videos. I've got a little bit of a series, kind of like a 12 Days of Christmas video series that's going to be launching later this month. But let me know what you guys are looking forward to in the holiday season in the comments below. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, and have a happy holidays, yo.
Cheers.